this is exactly how it's got to be, right? I'm driving away from the McDonald's drive-thru as I record this intro because that's the kind of life I'm living right now here in Michigan. I'm not even at McDonald's for me. I'm at it for another guy I'm living with. I already got my food. I went to Chick-fil-A, got myself... it's a long story, okay? This is one of those days where just nothing is working out right, but I'm just still glad I haven't hit a car. So as far as I'm concerned, it's still like a wash. Like, it's cost me time, which obviously is the most invaluable thing you can possibly lose. But it's also, something that seems easily replaceable in comparison to money, which none of us really have a lot of these days. It's been a back-to-back busy day. And yet at the same time, I don't think I've gotten anything done. I've just kind of felt this, existential listlessness, this slightly dark void over my head. But I don't want to get into that because this is actually a really exciting episode for me. It makes sense almost that I'm coming from McDonald's as I make this introduction because this is a guy who makes a lot of fast food references. It's hard to explain. Look, I interviewed this guest, SBN. Jesus, man, I'm already messing this up. It's my dyslexia. I'm starting to realize I've got a slight bit of it. SBN3 used to go by Soul Bro number 3. Probably is going to change his name at some point to something that's, a little bit more, easy to remember. Doesn't sound like some sort of cheat code you use in Mortal Kombat. But I love this dude. We spoke about a year ago from this day. We spoke in November of 2019, back when he was creating or was about to premiere his feature film, Taste Closed. That film came out. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't watched it, I would definitely check it out. I believe it's no longer available on YouTube. He was having a lot of trouble with that. So now you want to go to patreon.com/SBN3 to get a look at it. It's an $8 pledge, but it gets you not only that movie, but his entire library of movies that he basically can't get on YouTube anymore because of the ever-increasing constrictions or restrictions that YouTube is putting on its platform. Remember when it was this free Wild West where you could just post videos because it wasn't about necessarily making $1, it was just about sharing what you love, what you like to do, just trying to show other people, have a bigger platform to show the world what you were excited about? That's over. Now it's all TikToks, Instagrams, Twitters. What else is there out there nowadays? What else is? And now it's all about the Clubhouse. Let this be a time capsule moment. Now we're talking about Clubhouse. Let's see what that looks like 2 years from now and what's trying to replace that. Either way, I love this guy, and he now is making a video game after having made a feature film and maybe not finding it as fruitful, at least economically, as he might hoped. He's now making a video game, which is, honestly, from my perspective, a very, very cool concept. A simple concept. Nothing too grand or over the top, but just a simple, funny, neat twist on a very stereotypical genre. If you're anything like me, where you've played a few dating simulations or just graphic novel video games. I used to be really big in Nintendo DS. I got into it because there was a surgery game. It wasn't because I was trying to date waifus. But I did play a few games of this vein, and to have someone take it and flip it on its head, where you're no longer playing some sort of nerdy new kid at school who's a boy who's basically being courted by all the hottest girls in class. Now you're one of the hot girls, and you get to feel what it's like to be approached by every one of these weird, loser-esque, assholic dudes who just constantly are basically clawing at you for your attention, if not more. I think it's a cool idea. The game's demo's out, but the game itself is coming out later this year. Right now you can give him a donation for that game to help, obviously support the creator. I definitely recommend checking it out and giving it a whirl. It's honestly, the game itself, the demo is 5-7 minutes. And if you're a 90s kid like me, it's really nostalgic. It really takes me back to kind of the atmosphere that existed in high school way before we had like Instagram and Twitter and basically smartphones. You know, there was a moment not too long ago where we didn't have social media in the way that we have it now. We had live journals and diary lands, which were their own type of mess. If anything, I'm glad we're past those. They were superficial in their own way. People would write long diatribes about the kids they hated, or the people they wanted to murder, or just like the kind of home troubles they were having. It was really just like everyone had their own like personal emo diary that anyone could access. Sometimes there'd be a picture that you took at, you know, a recent pool party, or you know, some sort of like designer sunglasses you were trying to get your hands on for that Christmas. It was pretty pathetic. I actually still need to go back and delete mine because my live journal was not only just a complete masterpiece in emotional infantilism, but it was that way up until I was probably about 24, 25. Look, I didn't grow up. I'm still not really growing up emotionally. I'm getting there, but who really is at this point? I mean, look at it. Let's look at ourselves before we look at each other. We're all a little bit guilty of having arrested development. Either way, his game, Glass of 09, we talk about that. We talk about a little bit of the political, situation we're into. And like I said, I just like talking to this guy. It was cool to catch up with him after a year because to see what he's been doing, how he's been handling the pandemic, and also just to see one new cool thing somebody's doing pretty much on their own. I mean, I would never have imagined if I wanted to develop a video game that it was possible to do in a budgetary way that anyone could do it. And he kind of breaks it down a little bit about how he went about that stuff. So look, what I'm saying is something for everyone. Okay, there's video games, anime, politics, talking about just the infantilization, I'm not even saying that word right, of modern society. We get into a lot of it, and I think it's a great way to start this new year and have our first guest be this guy, the one and only SBN3. You know, I don't think I actually know his real name. So how you been in this last year that we spoke?
Coronavirus destroyed a lot of business opportunities.
I bet.
No, see, what I didn't like about it, and like people yell at me and like call me a Trump voter conservative for saying this. Like, I don't know. I think all workers are essential workers. Because, I mean, like, how the fuck? Now, this would be totally different. If I was actually getting in all the unemployment and stimulus shit that they were promising, then right. Yeah. But they're not fucking, Biden ain't delivering on the goods, let's just say. So, yeah, that's kind of a problem.
And you get called a Trump supporter for that? Just for simply, criticizing someone for not coming through with their promise?
Yeah, no, dude, literally, if you don't, in the entertainment industry, if you aren't, like, totally fucking, like, I like wearing my mask even when I'm outside and 50 feet away from somebody. Like people are like, wow, hey, man. Like, 'cause my uncle actually said this. He said that, like, coronavirus is a religion and the mask is the yarmulke. Like,
that's a good one, dude.
And I mean, my uncle's like super, like, I mean, obviously old people are always going to be super anti-lockdown. But no, my thing was like, hey, man, I'm cool with the lockdown. I'm cool with all that. But you better give me some motherfucking money. Like, I'm not like sitting around here while I like let corporations control my fucking life. Uber Eats is pissing me off too. Because Uber Eats is doing some shit where, oh my God. I was watching the Super Bowl yesterday, and they were like, oh yeah, eat local. Hey guys, we're liberal and down to earth. We're like the coffee shop with the septum piercing woman. Yo, hey guys, we're so into it.
Yeah,
and it's like,
commercial.
Dude, they fucking gouge the fuck out of restaurants and drivers. They treat them like fucking shit. They're a giant ass corporation, and that, like, this is what's annoying about like corporate America. It's not that they're corporate America. It's that they want to try to trick you into thinking they're a grassroots thing. Like, that's
right.
Fucking annoying.
No, that's what drives me so crazy. It's funny. When we spoke, I just started building a podcasting studio / comedy studio in Los Angeles, and since then, thanks to Corona, that's shut down, and I've left Los Angeles because you're absolutely right about about the whole mask thing. Like it's such a religion there. And it's such a, like, there's no conversation about it. There's no room to argue. That I'm just like, I'm just out of here for the time being. I'm going to come back if things clear up. But it's just, it's even worse there because there's people who don't have jobs, but they still think things are going to get better any moment. They think that these, like, at some point they're going to come through their promises. And what only exacerbates it is just seeing things like DoorDash or Uber Eats with all these actors. I don't know if you saw that commercial. That was pre-Super Bowl, but there was a commercial where it's just actors talking about how, like, by supporting restaurants, you're supporting actors because actors have been waiters. But I'm like, but they're not there anymore. They're not the waiters. Like, there's no waiters anymore. Like, what are you talking about? Like, first, and also I'm not supporting you. Like you already make billions of dollars on Wonder Woman. Like, you're already making millions of dollars from Transformers 4. Like, you're already making money off this commercial. Like, we're not supporting you in any way. You've gotten the money. If anything, I'm just paying an extra $5 because I don't want to go walk down the street to get to the restaurant I want to go to. I spend a lot more money, I feel like, in delivery fees than I ever have on groceries.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Deliver. They want, like, see, this is the thing. If you order Uber Eats in somewhere other than New York City, LA, Chicago, like a big city, like, dude, it takes like 90 minutes to get there, and it costs like $20 just delivery fee alone. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna donate $1 to some fucking charity you never heard of, by the way. So that's another $1 on top of that, and so you know. The other day all the fucking, like, retail charity shit is getting so fucking annoying. I was at Burger King and I was getting, like, enough food that would feed a whole fucking African village. But so I'm at Burger King and the guy's like, would you like to round up to donate to some hospital you never heard of? And I said, no. And he went, oh, like I was supposed to, you know, and then I go in and his mask has the fucking, like, the anime cat face on it. I'm like, oh, so you're just a regular piece of shit. That's cool.
Yeah, the masks with the designs on them really drive me crazy. People's efforts to, like, show some sort of, like, identity or fashion sense by having like either design, like a certain kind of mouth or even just like some sort of image or like slogan drives me crazy.
No, the people who are annoyingly liberal, they'll have, like, little flowers or like a tie-dye tripping effect, or they'll have, like, the anime stuff.
Yeah.
And then the annoyingly conservative people, they'll have like the skull teeth and, like, the Blue Lives Matter flag, and it's like, dude, if you're, like, I don't know, if anybody who is, like, not wearing just the standard surgical mask is, like, kind of corny to me.
Totally.
But
just get a solid color. I don't need, like, I've already was getting annoyed by T-shirts that have slogans and stuff on them. The fact that now I have to look at your face and it's essentially a billboard for whatever virtue you're trying to signal just drives me crazy. Like, it just seems to me so try hard. It's one of the reasons why when I go to any kind of, like, grocery store and I see they have a rule of, like, you can't wear a mask with designs on it, I'm totally for that because it's really distracting.
I didn't know grocery stores had that rule.
I know Apple does because I have a lot of friends who still work at that company, and I was asking them about it. They said the rules are you can wear any mask you want to wear. It just can't. It has to be a solid color. It can't be anything. There can't be any nozzles coming off of it. They don't want you to look steampunk, and they don't want you to have some sort of, like, you know, personal, like, you know, touch that's trying to, like, make people notice you. Which I'm all for. I think if they're going to enforce the masks at some point and mandate them, they should definitely mandate you can only wear a solid color mask. I know that's a little bit communist China, but we already seem to be heading there. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just take that step first.
What kind of pissed me off is when they started doing the mandatory mask law, like, wall masks were price gouged to be $20 a mask.
Right.
that was kind of fucked up. And then it was coming out that a lot of the face shields or, like, the snowboarding things, it turned out that those were actually really bad. It didn't do anything to block any of the air.
And I already had bought 2 of those for $20 a piece.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, great, awesome. I fell for that trap.
Yeah, and now it turns out I don't, but they're not really stopping that. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing: it's just universally, like, people. I get annoyed by people who are like, "Oh, you got to keep your mask on," and they're not even wearing gloves. Like, dude, do you realize how many diseases are transferred just by, like, touching shit? Like, you know,
I know.
To me, I don't know. To me, it's like, staying home is the only thing that I, you know, scientifically know for a fact will not transmit any virus.
Yeah.
That is the only thing, and they should have done a better job in maintaining that. But no, it was a situation where the corporations found a way for the rich to get richer.
Right.
So it was like, while they destroy small businesses, which is good. Hopefully they fail, then become a cog in our machine. It's the whole thing. And people would hear that rhetoric and think it's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's just common fucking sense. If you run shit, you don't want people trying to take you over.
Especially when you have an opportunity like this. Like, this is a once in a lifetime moment for you to be able to just completely wipe out a bunch of competition and make people much more reliant on you. It's like, it just makes sense on a game theory level. Like, they would obviously take advantage of this moment to benefit however they can. And they have.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely been exploited. But no, it's weird because again, so my income is suffering a bit. Meanwhile, I'm trying to produce like big projects and stuff like that, trying to hire actors and all this shit. And so, like, I don't want to be the guy, because that's what happened to me. Like, everybody was, we're worried. Oh, yeah, sorry, we can't pay you now. Bye. Or no, they don't even say that. They just fucking ghost you pretty much.
Yeah.
And so that happens, but I was making a point of not being the guy who contributes to that trickle-down effect. Meanwhile, so, it's the old, the business owner who's going to work despite coronavirus and all this shit. And my business, so if I'm shooting, like, there's no work from home for shooting. That doesn't exist. People have to get together. And so that's another thing is, like, I'm working with a lot of voice actors on a lot of projects, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, you guys can record from home, but, like, think about the other side of this. Like, there's a lot of people who work in the creative field who really just can't make any money now.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's kind of, comedy clubs, I guess. I know a lot of guys who run, music venues. They're like, when the fuck is the money going to start coming in? And it's very interesting. I've noticed that liberals have found a way to hate small business owners and homeless people while also feeling good about it. That is fascinating to me. How, again, this is why I don't like take political sides, because it's just fucking stupid. Like, it's. I don't know. Like, I have my opinions, but,
Well, I always tell people I'm more so fighting for my principles than my politics. Like, I don't have a very, like, political, like, alignment, but I definitely have certain principles that I believe in. I do think that people should be, like, able to make a lot of decisions for themselves, and also have, like, an opportunity to make money and take care of themselves. And if you're suppressing that, you should be giving them something in return. And the creative fields, especially, like I said, like, another reason why I left LA is there's just really no opportunity for comedy or any kind of entertainment if you're not just podcasting or making stuff at home. And it's when I started looking at my balance sheet for the year, I was like, I'm spending a lot of money now to be in a city doing things that I can do anywhere. And I feel like they're going to suffer for it in the long run. I mean, I think they're definitely benefiting it because they're getting rid of small businesses and stuff like that. And major studios are probably going to, like, tromp over, like, the small guys. But for people who are, doing stuff on their own, it's only become more obvious. There's no reason to be in these gigantic cities to do what you do. But has it affected you at all? Like, so, like, how much of an impact? Because you mostly, it seems like, obviously you do a lot of stuff that can be done remotely. So has it?
My self-production can be done remotely, but the self-production doesn't really bring in the money until it's done.
Right.
So it's one of those things. Dude, I probably lost between flipping cameras, because the market got slow on that, between moving cameras and doing commercials and doing whatever. I probably lost out on like $15,000 in 1 year because of coronavirus. Like, it was, I'm not making six figures or anything, so 15,000 is a lot of fucking money.
Right.
So it's like, and the unemployment, like, it lasted for like 3 months, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I can, like, live, maybe at times more comfortably on certain months than I would have without the unemployment. But then it just ended, and it's not coming back from what I'm seeing.
They keep on saying that they're going to, like, bring back, like, a lot of the assistance, but it gets more and more delayed. Now we're hearing not till March will we even know if we get another round of checks. And I mean, I guess I laughed because I knew they were doing it in the moment when Biden said that he's going to give us all $2,000. I was like, they're so going to take that $600 and account that for what we're receiving. Which to me, like, I'm not an economist, but it just seems so, like, small compared to the kind of economic assistance I see people needing. Like, $1,400 maybe about 6 months ago could have been helpful, but I feel like now a lot of people are so behind that it's basically just going to get you by for another month. Whereas if you don't have a job lined up, you're still just in the hole.
Yeah, no, I mean, the 600 or the 2,000 or whatever, I mean, that's in addition to the 300 a week unemployment they're promising. But at the same time, like, I saw the first wave of it, I'm about 3 months overdue for that second wave of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's interesting because unemployment, I was like, okay, that's not the end of the world. Like, it's fine. But again, like, they're not. It has to happen like immediately if you want people to buy into your shit. Like, if it's not happening immediately, and the government's a big place, so it's like you can't always. They have to deal with about 200 million people because I guess like there's 100 million people who are kids and aren't going to get the unemployment anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to deal with like 200 million people, and it's really complicated. But at the same time, like, we have the fucking internet. How have we not figured this out yet? Like,
yeah, I know. They definitely and they definitely know that people are like out there struggling because you're seeing it, like you said, with small businesses. Like you can actually just like read the news and see there's tons of small businesses that are shutting down. I think there's like a fifth of the rest. It might even been like a third of the restaurants in New York are like gone for good. Like that's just been like.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. I follow a mutuals with Rock Harper, who won. He won season 3 on Hell's Kitchen.
Oh yeah,
and this dude is like. He's kind of going like he because he's in a very liberal circle because like celebrity or chef sort of thing,
right?
And so I'm seeing this guy tweet and he's like, wait, so we can have grocery stores open but we can't have restaurants open? Like so he was kind of like but then people would go in on him. People were like oh, you don't know science, blah 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 blah, and like all this shit, and it was just but like, again, he's another guy on the same boat as me where he's considered non-essential.
Right.
It's like, dude, I'm fucking essential to me. Like I gotta pay my bills, but but again, like if you say this is what's weird is that like you'll say that and the standard sort of liberal response is, oh, well, you're just being selfish. You got to think about the greater good and all the immunocompromised people. First off, we need old people to fucking die. I saw that it was mostly old people dying. Like, I'm sorry. Like, oh, you hate Trump voters until we have something that kills Trump voters. Okay. Oh, sorry, dude. Like, it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. But no, you say that. It's like, oh, you're just being selfish. I'm like, I'm sorry. If I'm homeless, are you going to give me $1,000? No? Oh, okay. Shut the fuck up. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't know.
No, I agree, man. I agree. At a certain point, you got to ask yourself, like, well, what is the cost of losing a lot of senior citizens who are pretty much, just living their life on retirement and Social Security? Like, we want to obviously do our best to protect them, but it's not the worst thing in the world if you're being reasonable.
My retroactive hindsight idea, although I'm sure nobody in the government even mentioned this anyway, is that you take you have people who declare that they're immunocompromised because those are the, old and, like AIDS or whatever people, obviously they're obviously going to get hit with coronavirus the worst. And so what we do is we set up, but this is the problem, is it kind of sounds like a concentration camp where we set up housing. We set up housing for the people who are worried about it, and we give them the financial aid and all that, because we see that in America, not everyone's going to try to do that. Americans have like all this pride, and they don't want unemployment, and they don't want government assistance and all that. So what you see is like not everybody is going to try to exploit that and get that. So what you do is, now you're spending way less money on financial aid and you're letting the rest of the economy sort of operate. And so if you put them all in this suit, kind of like the NBA bubble in 2020 for the playoffs,
right?
You kind of do that, but for like, maybe let's say there's like, I don't know, 50 million Americans who are at risk. Then like, like paying for 50 million people is a lot cheaper than paying for 300 million people. And so that was, and the money goes farther. Like the people will feel it more because it's like, it's less of a denominator. So that's one thing that I thought about with coronavirus. But again, like, like, oh, you're going to uproot my housing and blah, 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 this shit and that shit. And it's, I don't know.
Well, we got to do something. That's the point. Is like there's clearly something has to change because what we're doing right now isn't working. I mean, it's slowly starting to get better, but it's still not working as far as like, getting us to some semblance of normalcy.
The funniest thing about Corona lockdown, so many dudes that I knew were total fucking shut-ins are now proud about it. It's so fucking annoying. They're like, well, we got to stay indoors. I'm like, when's the last time you actually like went to a gig or did anything like in person? And so it's like, that's kind of the problem. But I mean, life is fucking rich. This was another thing. People keep using the Skittles analogy. We're like, oh, if there's 100 Skittles and 3 of those Skittles in there would kill you, would you do the Skittle? And it's like,
I never heard that.
There's like nurses on TikTok who like always fucking say that. They're
Dude,
like,
I can't get into TikTok. I just can't bother. I just don't want to be sucked into that. But that's funny.
Well, so no, but and so the thing is that like. Well, eating Skittles doesn't put a roof over my head. Like the analogy is so fucking broken. It reminded me of another. As far as like, oh, do you risk getting coronavirus and working and all that? There's a really good Michael Jordan story. In '86, he broke his foot, and it was starting to heal up by the playoffs. The playoffs where he scored 63 against the Celtics.
Right.
And so he played that game on like a partially broken foot.
Jeez.
And but they were talking. The general manager, like there was a chance of re-injury, and the general manager and the team staff and all of them, they're talking to Michael Jordan and they're saying, there's a 10% chance you re-injure this and maybe jeopardize your whole career. And the analogy they used was, so you have 10 aspirin, and one of those aspirin are laced with cyanide and will kill you. Do you still take one of those aspirin for your headache? And Michael Jordan says, how bad is the headache? and so it's
right
like that that's a real question though to that follow-up, like that.
Well, also with the Skittles, it's like if I'm just buying a bag of Skittles as a treat, it's like, I'm not going to risk it. But if that's the only sustenance I have, then I'm going to risk the chance of it killing me, because the other option is just to starve to death. So like people will definitely take a handful of Skittles with the possibility of one of them being poisonous.
I mean, I don't know how much sustenance Skittles really have. But,
but I'm saying you're like, you know what I'm saying? Like desert island, like you're starving to death. You're going to take whatever you can get. You've already eaten all the grass in the ground.
Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of grass, though.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus Christ.
So did this is this pandemic? Did this have anything to do with you starting this this video game that you made, or was that just a project that was on the docket that you just got to?
I was doing that anyway. So what's it called? You mean Class of 09?
Yeah, Class of 09.
So Class of 09, written and directed by me. What's to say about it? So I started the screenplay for that game is roughly, it's like the length of 2 feature films.
Really?
And so, I mean, the thing is that if you play through the entire game, every single option, you get, it's either 1 really long feature or 2 really short feature films. And so I thought writing with Taste Closed, I thought writing 1, hour long feature film was a lot of fucking writing. This shit was ridiculous. But so I started writing that December 2019, right after I finished Taste Closed. And so. Yeah, no. I had that wasn't a result of coronavirus. I was doing that regardless. I had the idea before Corona, let's say.
What gave the idea to start going into a video game direction instead of doing like dubs and other short films?
People actually buy video games. Obviously there's piracy for games, but we see way more piracy for movies and non-interactive content, because a lot of it is like the computer literacy. A lot of people are like, oh, well, what if I like download it and it gives me a virus and like I fuck it up and blah, blah, blah. Like it's way easier to pirate movies than it is to pirate games, just because, and I'm sure, an expert in pirating games will be like, oh, well, no, it's easy. Shut the fuck up, retard. But like, no, I mean, like, the average person is much more adept at pirating a movie than pirating a game.
100%.
It's like, you got to do a crack code. You got to, it's the serial and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no, so the game's going on Steam, and, we'll see. Also, it's an original property, and so
I really love the idea. When I read the description, I was just, you have a really good way of finding like cool new angles to take on like nerd culture stuff and things that I kind of grew up around in like the 90s and early 2000s. I didn't play a lot of graphic novels, but I do know that it is a typical trope where you're trying to like, you're a guy and you just meet a lot of like sexy anime girls, and the idea is you're trying to end up with one. But I don't think I've ever seen anything that goes in the direction of the girl.
Yeah, no, it's third person because a lot of times, and it's the insertion fantasy with a lot of those too, where you don't even have a drawing, you're just you, and they all look at you.
Right.
So it's like that added insertion fantasy. But I had to, I don't know, my whole thing is always been creating main characters and and it's fashion and all that and like the contrast of how that shit goes. But yeah, I would say it's funny. It really reveals how many men are very insecure with their relationship with women as a whole, and just how they. Because it's like, dude, like we got comments and I would see shit where it would get posted in a server or it get posted on Reddit. And people are like, this actually isn't that. Like they're really mad, and I'm like. Well, show me another fucking game where like you just verbally destroy a bunch of fucking losers who don't know how to talk to women. Like, it's not really too games in general from a female perspective are not too common.
Sure.
So it's one of those things where or even I mean like we could say Tomb Raider, Lara Croft or something like that, but it's like how many women actually jump from cavern to cavern and shoot
right.
bad guys and like
they're still fantasies. They're not necessarily relatable. It's a
gritty, realistic game. There is nothing fantasy at all in this entire game. It is all just brutal reality. Now it gets a little wild here and there. It definitely dips into some things that the average girl will not experience in her lifetime. But that backstory
definitely already took me for a loop when I watched the first opening. That was pretty cool. I was like, wow, that's an impressive place to start.
Yeah, no, because like because I always wanted just that. Like just that angle of somebody who doesn't give a shit, because that's what I always thought about. Like when I would talk to like a girl in high school or whatever, where a dude would be doing something and she's like talking about it on a group chat, and she'd be like, "Oh, I got a picture of some guy's dick. Oh, I'm really uncomfortable." And I would just say like, just post it everywhere. Like teach him a fucking lesson. Like what the fuck is this? She's like, "No, that's mean." And so it was just little experiences like that growing up where I was like, okay, so, most girls are not going to be that fucking cold. Right. I've talked to, I guess, about as many girls as the average person has. I don't know, but by and large, women aren't that like cold-hearted. And so I had, with that intro, I had to sort of create the justification for why she's like this. Mm. And so, because that's I think they call it a tightly written screenplay. I think that's the phrase. But, like I can't just have this random ass character with no justification for why she doesn't give a fuck.
Right. No, totally. And I thought with the beginning, when you were talking about her growing up and her perspective of going from like, a not so attractive girl to an attractive girl and recognizing that dichotomy was a good place. But then you just throw in that complete 180 and I'm like, oh, wow, this girl's got a dark place to come from. So it definitely justified her perspective.
The pretty girl experience is, I think it's very interesting when this is what pisses me off about feminism. It's not that they want rights. It's that they don't acknowledge what some have called the pretty girl experience. And so that, like, think about it. If a woman grows up beautiful and, coveted, whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
She is going to act totally different than a woman who is just ignored and like people think she's kind of fugly and all this shit. Those are going to be two very different personalities.
Totally.
And sometimes there's, because you got to think about it. You think about it from the perspective of like, if people, what comes with being a pretty girl? Everybody wants to talk to you. You're never alone. You're never, you're never this, you're never that. And so it's like, and that's the thing. And this is regardless of gender. When you're alone, that's when you think. And, just like the thing said. And so like, I think about it like all the great artists and all the great thinkers of our time and all that, like they were outcasted in some way.
Right.
And so like that's something that people don't really want to talk about though, that I've noticed, especially in this post-Instagram world where a bunch of attractive people want to like act like they're e-girls and goth and nobody loves them, even though like they were handed fucking everything socially and financially.
Well, yeah, they also have like large followings right on their profiles. So it's like there's clearly some sort of attention that they're getting all throughout life.
No, yeah, they act like they're so sad and it's like, dude, you will literally never be alone in your life. You will never experience that. If you're like a hot girl, like I mean, bad shit can happen to you. I'm not saying that you're gonna have a perfect life, but if you're a hot girl, you will never be alone, and you will never have a hard time making friends. Like,
right.
Now, they might not always be the best friends. They might be like weirdo dudes who just want to fuck. And I'll acknowledge that. But still, like, I don't know. For a lot of people, that's better than nothing. Like, that's what the incels would tell you.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too philosophical, but do you think there's a possibility, though, that they might be also losing something in the fact that they never get to be alone? Because I would say, as someone who's probably on that other end of the spectrum where I had a lot of time alone, that I got very good at being comfortable in that place, that maybe stuff doesn't bother me as much when I'm around people. Like I don't feel as sad that often because I'm okay with myself. And I think where maybe this is kind of also leads into like what's going on with coronavirus is like a lot of people who aren't used to being alone and working through that because they never had that opportunity are finally experiencing that maybe you might be better off having some alone time because it gives you that ability to appreciate like, what it's like to actually have people. Did that make any sense?
No, I think it gives you the ability to just like use your brain and ponder things. That's where I come from with it. And the end, one of the endings in the game, there's 15 different endings in the game. And so it's weird because it's definitely not the longest VN, but it's sprawling. Like there's a bunch of different shit that you can, fall into. And so kind of one of the endings makes a point about like, the girl is not to spoil anything, but like one of the main girl makes a point of like, okay, let's do something. Now that I'm graduated, let's do something. And she's like, fuck, I don't want to do anything. My dopamine levels are destroyed from constant. So, I mean, I think you lose out on just motivation when you're constantly surrounded by people. You lose the ability to think for yourself and like really just try at shit. You lose, and that's the problem, like long-term gratification, if you're constantly, pandered to and you're constantly this and that, I think long-term gratification, if your brain can't appreciate that, that is losing out on quite a bit. That's going to be a pretty hard life in the long term.
Yeah, I agree. And also, speaking of that, since you brought up the whole different directions the game takes, I played the demo and I was really impressed with like how different things kind of can play out just on a short timeline because it's like only like you said, it's only like the first like few minutes of the game. But is writing was that difficult? Like coming up with like these like storylines because it does seem like you go for a different perspective. Depending on what choices you make, as far as how her relationships build up with people and the outcomes of those stories.
I would say that, I mean, so the game, how do I put this? So there's about, I'm trying to count, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about like 4 main veins that you can go down as far as the story goes, because the first thing I had to do was plot out the flow chart of like what happens when you do what.
Right.
And so there's about 4 main veins, and through those veins are about 15 different endings. And so a lot of times, there's like an A and a B option, and one of those choices will lead to one ending, the other choice will lead to another, like just immediately.
Right.
So that's one thing to think about. But what I'd say is, again, the crucial part about screenwriting, and I feel like I've really figured it out now that I've had, a feature and I've been able to, actually play with time and have time to play with, those two phrases were exactly the same. I just reversed the words. But anyway, now that you have the ability to mess around with time, you realize that the setup and payoff really is the most crucial thing about writing a script and keeping people engaged. And so this is the hard part, is you'll have a setup and a payoff, right? And you have that idea in the script. But sometimes it's like, what if they didn't pick the option that had the setup, but they end up at the payoff? So that was probably the biggest fucking challenge, is making sure. And one of the points I made was in the little blurb on the demo screen. One of the points I made was that it's a screenplay with actual payoff, and that's something I noticed that because again, visual novel is a Japanese like sort of Eastern art form, and it's. I mean, I'll be honest, like from what I've seen of like the anime sort of screenwriting, like they are very, very into world building. They're super into that. They get a little into their characters and everyone's background and all that. The scripts are just like, it is not the standards of American screenwriting. It's not the like, oh, whoa, hey, look at that. Like, I think about even some of the shit, like, and you can bring up Dragon Ball or Yu-Gi-Oh! And like, okay, it's made for like little kids. It's gonna be bad. Right. Although I don't know, this is what's weird is like if you say Dragon Ball is for kids, then a bunch of 25-year-old men yell at you on Twitter. So it's like, is it really made for kids? I can't fucking tell anymore. But so like even like Samurai Champloo or like Cowboy Bebop. Like, so those are considered like high class, like some of the best anime shows ever made. And even then, like the world building is really awesome. Like the tone they set is really awesome, but it doesn't feel like those stories really fucking go anywhere. Doesn't really feel like, and so.
Right. Yeah. No, they were pretty open ended. I remember that was my biggest frustration with Cowboy Bebop because people talked about it so highly and I finally watched it. I was like, where's the, I was just like, what happened? It was entertaining, but like, what was the point?
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's kind of the thing is like, we're putting so many Western screenwriting styles into it. We're putting just the attitude in America that does not exist in Japan. And I can't remember who was saying this to me, but they were saying that Americans play the visual novels because they're really into the concept of like taking high school really seriously and clubs and all that shit. Because in America we don't give a shit. But he was saying like, well, check it out. What if you get the game translated in Japanese and you have the same thing for Japanese people?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's this fucking world they don't even know. Because, like, think about it. Like, in a Japanese game where it's like, oh, we gotta make sure we get the funding for the club this week. And it's like, in America, it'd be like, fuck you. You do that shit. Whatever. I'm going home, dude. Like, that's like American high school. Like, who gives a fuck about anything?
Right. It's very apathetic.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the class of '09 is. I think it would. This is very bold to say, but I would say that it will probably go down as like top 10 most realistic high school experiences ever depicted in media. Well, because go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, no, because this is my point. Is like John Hughes movies are like kind of like the thing that's really promoted a lot, and people are like, oh yeah, it's so real. And I'm watching John Hughes movies. I'm like. No kid cares this much at fucking all. No kid cares as much. No fucking kid is like worried about the guy next to him. Oh, hey, what are your concerns at detention? No one fucking gave a shit on Saturday school. Nobody fucking cares, dude. Like, and so, but that's the challenge. Like, how do you make a screenplay where nobody gives a shit? And so that's where, that's where Seinfeld becomes like a big influence for games like this.
Sure.
It's like, making not caring still engaging.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I do remember when I was playing, it was definitely taking me back to like what it was like in the lunchroom when I was in high school and stuff like that. Like I was like, wow, this definitely captures like where I was at back when I was in high school, made me nostalgic for it. But that was also like, yeah, in like late 90s, early 2000s that I spent in high school. And I do feel like that's a time that's really hard for people to make stories about because we were very disenfranchised and like, detached from like feelings and like, being like, really gung ho about, baseball club or whatever to make sure that, you were able to have enough funding. Like, I don't remember many people doing bake sales, and stuff and getting excited about it. You were almost made fun of if you like, you were excited about something and really liked it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you're right. It is. But I think that's what I kind of liked about the game. This idea was aside from just basically taking a very, like opposite perspective, like I'm always about trying to find the perspective no one's thinking about. So going from the perspective of the girl who has all the guys going up to her and how that's such a different fantasy. Like then, what a guy has. It's like, all these girls like me. Like I get to pick one and I get to pick one, but I know they all want to be my girlfriend. Like that's that's a guy's fantasy. But I could so see a girl's fantasy be like, oh, all these guys want me and I get to tell them all to fuck off. I get to tell every single.
You get to do a lot more to them and tell them to fuck off, but I won't spoil it.
Right, but you know what I mean. Like that could easily be the opposite fantasy.
Oh no, absolutely. The girls that I've seen play it, they really liked they really liked the honesty.
What has been the feedback of the demo? What has been the feedback so far?
There are a couple. Everyone said it's funny. From what I've seen, as far as like women who play it and men who play it, there's definitely a higher concentration of women who appreciate it.
Really?
For whatever women will like fucking actually go out of the way to download a game on itch.io, but it's not much. I'm being honest. Like I
appreciate it.
I was told that I actually had a really high female viewership for what I did. I had about like 21% or something like that. People were saying that was ridiculously high.
That is pretty high.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know a lot of guys who have like 5% women on their YouTube channels.
Yeah, no. So it's weird. I think part of it is like I make fun of like weird men, and I think women gravitate towards that because I don't know. I think about women born in the '90s, and it's like I don't know. They were raised thinking men are a certain kind of way, or like, oh yeah, if I get a husband or a boyfriend, this is going to be this mature man who is really serious about his job and taking care of me and all this shit. Not to say every girl is like this, but like there's definitely a subset of women who feel that way. The trad wife. I don't know if that's racist to say anymore. But anyway, so. But yeah, so there's that. But then we see all these girls are just seeing these millennial and Gen Zer men are just growing up into these pussies who are worried for the next fucking Spider-Man movie, like little boys, dude, like children.
There is an infantilization of our generation.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. I mean, one of the ways that I was able to maintain some funds in was through Yu-Gi-Oh cards, because I had this might be a hot take. I think because millennials and Gen Zers are eventually going to become the dominating generation, I think we're going to get to a point where Yu-Gi-Oh cards are on the same level as gold in terms of like tradability and stock, because this is what's happening now.
Right. Well, we're seeing that with Pokemon cards right now.
I would have never thought in a million years that Yu-Gi-Oh would be in the same conversation as gold, but this is why. It's when the coronavirus hit, I thought Yu-Gi-Oh cards were going to plummet and be worth nothing.
Right.
The opposite happened. Yu-Gi-Oh cards skyrocketed. Pokemon cards skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. All this shit, all this collectible shit that, is childish and whatever, and, is silly to the average, 50-year-old man who, keeps his gold or keeps his baseball cards or keeps whatever, is the fact that this shit went up showed us that millennials and Gen Zers have a lot more pull than they did 10 years ago in the last recession.
Right.
So, I mean, Gen Zers most of them were like still weren't even in high school. So, but yeah, no, that's a thing to think about.
No, my friend has been spending most of his coronavirus, spending what extra cash he has, investing in and having fun, pretty much tracking down mint condition NES games.
That's another big one.
Right, not to play with them, just to because it's just he just recently showed off his Super Mario 3, and I was actually kind of jealous. I was like, wow, that's pretty incredible.
That's how I initially video game collecting and flipping was initially how I made the money to start up my, I guess, media business or whatever. Where like in high school, you N64, and so again, like I was onto this shit like 2009, so that was before collectible games like really blew up, and so. I would buy, I had so many flips. A kid sold me a Pikachu. Like, I go up to kids and, like, I take the lunch money that I had and I was like, hey, I'll give you $20 for your N64 and all your games if you have them. And they were fucking dumbass kids. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, bro. $20. Yeah, this shit's worthless. So then I take that. I'd probably flip that for like $100 at a time. So on the really big stuff, one time I gave a kid $75 for a black N64, a gold Toys R Us N64 in the original box with all the baggies and everything, and like 20 games.
Damn.
And I ended up flipping all of that years later. I probably flipped all of that for about like $700.
Damn.
So it was, like a lot of games that I bought for 20 in 2010, I was selling for 60 in 2014. And so, it's, but no, games are legit, games are another, the problem is that it's so heavy and it's so much storage. Cards you just put in a binder. So,
right.
But yeah.
Is there anything you flipped like years ago that you look at the price of now and like wish to God you just held on to it?
I guess, yeah. Well, no, more so I wish I kept it in good condition and I knew as a kid. There was so much shit that I had that ended up being like, if it was a PSA 9 or 10, there's so much shit that I had that would have ended up being like at least $2,000. I had, as far as Yu-Gi-Oh goes, because that's what I remember particularly, I had a first edition Dark Magician Girl. One of those in PSA 10 is $3,000 now.
Jeez, I had one too. Shoot. Oh, man.
I had a first edition starter deck Kaiba Blue Eyes. That would be, I don't know, like $4,000 or $5,000 now.
Wow.
I had first. What's fucked up is the sealed shit is worth more than any other shit. And I remember it was 2000. It was like 2003, like early 2003, like winter, February, around there. And my parents got me a box of the first set of Yu-Gi-Oh! Legend of Blue Eyes, and they would like use the packs as incentive to get me to do stuff because Yu-Gi-Oh! was the craze back then. And so that was a first edition box. One of those boxes, first edition, now go for $20,000.
That's crazy.
We bought it for like $100. And so, but yeah.
It's just funny because I remember back when I would buy like toys and stuff like that, I would always try to get an extra one to hold on to as like, for safekeeping. But my parents could never understand the idea that these things would ever be valuable. So I'd always just get like one pack of like Yu-Gi-Oh cards or like or whatnot. And it's like on the one hand, I would know this might be valuable someday, but on the other hand, you want to play it because you're a kid. You want to have that experience. So it's just so hard looking back. Like if I was only willing to give up my childhood, I could have made so much money off of it.
The reality is, I mean, what I'd say for anybody who like thinks about their Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon collection, if you were playing with your cards out of the sleeves, if you were playing with them a lot, if they were putting them in plastic baggies, if you were doing all that shit, putting rubber bands around them, if you weren't taking care of them, don't worry, you didn't miss out on that much money. Because even if your parents didn't sell that off, it probably would have been worth like maybe you might have gotten lucky and had like the bag worth $100. No life-changing money.
Right.
But no, if you like, dude, like a sealed case of oh my god, dude, like a sealed case, which was like the box. So there would be like the boxes at CVS or whatever, and so a case would be 12 of those boxes, and that's what the stores would get, retail. And so, oh my god, so I had like one of those Legend of Blue Eyes boxes. They sold for $250,000.
Jesus, really?
The case, 12 boxes in the case sold for $250,000. So it's, dude.
That's incredible. I can't imagine what kind of person is paying that money for that kind of like luxury. I guess it's just an item that they feel is going to be worth a lot more money down the road. And I guess you're right because, like you said, more of us are just going to inherit wealth and want to spend it in some way, and probably on things of our childhood.
No, exactly. You spend, and that's what I did. I mean, I'd say the investment mistake I made in 2016 was I started buying up a lot of dead stock Jordans because I thought that like the Space Jams would be worth a lot. I thought all that'd be worth a lot. But then what happened is I actually, like I sat on all these Jordans. They didn't go down, but they're all staying at the same price. So
right.
Jordans didn't really go up. In 2016, I should have put all my money on those first edition Yu-Gi-Oh cards in near mint condition, because that would have, let's say if I took $1,000 and I put it all on stuff, I would probably have enough to buy a house if I picked the right shit.
Oh yeah.
And so that's the type of shit you think about, because like in 2014, so a lot of the shit was just worthless in like 2012, but I wasn't making money in 2012. Like I didn't really, but 2016, that was like the first year I really started making some, decent money doing like entertainment stuff. And so, but yeah, no, it's, but I thought Yu-Gi-Oh would never be worth anything. Because I thought it was just like frowned upon.
So what is your plan now with money and the work that you do moving forward, and like the pandemic? Like, what do you think is going to be like the outcome of this as far as the life we're leading now? And like, what is your plan, if you have one, for like the next few years?
The plan is, let's see if this fucking game makes some money. That's the plan.
Just Erickson. Do you have a date when you think it's going to be done? Or no?
I'm saying Q2 2021.
Okay. And you do it now. I know you have voice actors. I imagine you have an illustrator that you hired for this.
Yeah, that's a fucking story. So
okay, let's hear it.
It was a girl who mainly did oil painting. Like she watched a lot of anime growing up, but she didn't really like try fan art or anything like that. But there was a version that we were doing where I was like, okay, draw it like anime. And there was a version that we were doing, but you'd show it to people, they're like, So then, what's it called? I was like, hey, this isn't working. The anatomy, all this, like, it's not conceiving anime. So what I had the girl do was, for like 2-3 months, she exclusively studied the Pixiv, like high painted anime visual novel stuff, and she managed to get a look that actually looked believable. Because that was the thing. If we had this is the problem with making like a joke game of this nature, is that if you have a bunch of joke art, no one's gonna even give it a chance. They're gonna be like, oh, it's some ironic shithead game, because that's a big thing on Steam now. Just the whole, oh, here's my ironic game where you date a pigeon or whatever the fuck, like.
Please, does that exist? I want to find that.
I think it's called like Hatful Boyfriend or some shit. I don't fucking know. But so, but that was my thing, is like, I wanted it to be appealing on multiple fronts, because a lot of times, like, the pretty anime girl is what's going to sell the game for a lot of people. And so you have to make sure that happens. But it was amazing. So many people told me that we wouldn't be able to pull off a style transplant. So many, I reached out to so many like random anime artists on Twitter who could do that style. I was like, hey, do you have any tips? Do you have any of this? And they're like, oh, well, I think you should just, wait until you hire the right person. You shouldn't force someone into doing a style they don't know. And I'm like, you are so not a fucking producer. And so it was, but again, 3 months later, it was a worrisome conversation in, March 2020. But then like 3 months later, oh, wait. Or I think it was like 2 months later. Wow, we actually have the style now, to the point where I was hiring Japanese artists, and Japanese artists kind of look down. I noticed that Western artists and Japanese artists look down on each other for the style they do.
Oh, really?
But then you actually ask them to do that style, neither of them can actually do it. I'm like, oh, well, if it's so fucking bad, why can't you do it, asshole? It was one of those things. Because I had a lot of artist friends, but they were all Western.
Yeah.
And so there's different, there's just different expectations. There's different, so I can't really say that one person is right or another. It really comes down to just style. But yeah, that was a pain in the ass. Also, picking out the clothes and all that, like that, we also had to make sure that would be extremely accurate as well.
I really did actually, I noticed very acutely the jeans on Jessica. With Jekka, with that dove print. I'm like, wow, I've seen those before. Like, I remember those very distinctly.
The Hollister Seagull. Yeah, no, they always, and so it's like sometimes you remember really accurately. Sometimes it's just like a little thing, a blurb that you remember and you adapt it into something. But no, I mean, just about everything in there, it's going to be pretty real.
Sidekick I thought was genius. I was like, oh, totally. Like that's a perfect icon and a thing to be using to like make text decisions.
Sidekick 3. Yeah, no, because up until that point I had never really seen. You know what? It's actually funny. I'm not the first to do it, but I'm the first to do it in a retroactive fashion, kind of like how George Lucas was the first person to make a retro movie with American Graffiti. That was the first retro contemporary film ever made. And so, yeah, try to find a movie before 1972 that was like a 20-year nostalgia thing. Right. It's really hard to find. I haven't been able to find it. So in terms of the sidekick, we weren't. I feel like in a visual novel we might be the first to like kind of fuck around like that. But I mean, tons of games. Well, you know what game actually did it a shit ton? Tony Hawk Underground, Tony Hawk Project 8, all of those games were doing it, but they were doing it when it was a corporate sponsorship thing. Right. But here we are, we've come full circle, where now that shit that was called dumb in 2005, now that's like, whoa, in 2020. So like that's, again, everything comes back. Don't count anything out on coming back. Everything eventually comes back.
Are you going to stick in the gaming world after this, or are you going to go back to? Or do you have any more video projects in the pipeline?
I mean, I'd rather just work on video stuff, because you have to hire programmers and you have to hire artists. Like all this shit that I don't know how to do, I don't like. It's a pain in the ass when you're doing shit that you physically cannot do.
I totally agree.
You can't just take over. And so it's like relying on employees and all this and all that. And I mean, like, I'll do it. I'll put up with it. I mean, if the game makes a lot of money, then okay, yeah. I mean, I have other ideas for games. I want to bring back Pokemon Puzzle League.
Nice.
I would want to make a really awesome skateboarding game, because we haven't had one of those in fucking, like 11 years now.
Damn.
Like that's stuff that I would want to do. But no, I mean, it all depends on how well it does. Because again, the reality is like so, I get respect from people in the underground scene who see, he turned a dub into a feature film. Oh, he did, he subverted people with this movie review. So I get respect for that. But at the same time, like, I don't have any original property that I've created that legitimized like the whole operation that we do.
You said you were working with developers, programmers for the game.
Programmers, yeah.
Is that and I don't want to get too personal with it, but is that an expensive proposition for somebody trying to make a video game on their own? Because I just figured you were doing it on your own, but if you had to find a programmer, I imagine that's kind of costly.
No, it's in the ballpark. It's in the ballpark of 4 figures.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it's not life-changing money to hire a programmer. But yeah, I mean, look, the reality is that the reason, there's a million people who, I have an idea for a game, blah, blah. If you don't have money you're willing to spend and you don't have just people and connections, your little ideas that are really awesome, they're never going to happen.
Right.
And so the reality is, like, there was 5-6 years of work of just meeting people, gathering money, doing all this stuff, not deliberately thinking about, I'm going to make this game, but it's just there were resources and and there were a lot of actors that I hired where they would not have, people with like big followings that would have not worked on this game unless they saw that it was me or, someone else who knew of me also working on the game. And, that's a big thing with casting is like a part of your casting budget is also your promotional budget.
Are you able to disclose the budget for this game overall?
I mean, I don't really have an exact figure. It's in the ballpark of like 10,000.
Okay. Wow. So that's quite a passion project to be like invested in. This is all your own money, right? It's not like a GoFundMe or anything like that.
No, I've had zero funding from anyone else to do this game. But I was told that $10,000 was like extremely cheap too for a video game.
Yeah, I bet. But for somebody to take their own money and invest in a video game, building one, I imagine is quite a commitment. I know guys who right now would not be willing to throw $10,000 on Tesla stock, let alone making their dream come true.
Here's the thing. Betting in myself is the only thing that I can really believe in terms of so I don't know what the fuck the stock market's going to do. I know that I'm going to get what I'm doing done. and I know who I know how to entertain at this point where I'm okay with spending $10,000 on something because I believe in it. I believe that it will do well. So I mean, we'll just have to see on that front. But I don't think I'm gonna be a millionaire off of this game. I don't think that at all. But again, it's all about profit. Like, can I break even? Can I sell 1,000 copies of the game? Can I sell 1,000 copies of this game? That's very realistic. Some would consider a humble estimate. 1,000 copies. Is
there going to be an iPhone version, or is it just going to be strictly on the desktop?
We're trying to get it on iPhone and Play Store and all that.
Awesome, dude. I'm looking forward to it. You said the Q2 of this year?
Yeah, Q2 2021.
Okay, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Yeah, no. Oh, let's hope.
Is there anything else you wanted to promote or plug for the show?
Go check out Taste Closed. Heaven Ain't Hard to Find. Just like the last time.
I wanted to ask you, what was the experience like after? Because I remember we were talking before it actually came out. You were worried about some trouble with YouTube, and I noticed after it did come out, you had a few issues. What was the outcome of that release? Was it a positive experience, or was it more just like of a headache than it was worth?
It was a negative thing because I just wanted as many people to see it as possible. But then you put out the Patreon link. You say, hey, watch it here because this is the only way you can do it. Evidently, because people are like, oh, upload it for free, and I said, oh, fuck you. So because here's the thing. I mean, technically, it is for free. I mean, you're getting the partnership. Right. I'm not charging like a ticket for it. But no, I mean, so I put that out. My Patreon probably tripled, quadrupled after that. And then I was like, oh, what else can I do? How can I show people? Because people kept asking me, where can I watch it? Where can I watch it? Because a link only get you so far. And then I was like, okay, I made movie trailers really cool in high school and stuff like that. And a lot of how I started learning how to edit was making my own trailers for stuff. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to make a trailer for my own movie. Let's see how it does. And even though a bunch of people had already seen it, the trailer got fucking 15,000 views, and then way more people started getting it. And so it was an even bigger spike than when I first just had the link for the movie itself.
Oh, shit.
So then I was realizing that trailers sell movies, huh? No wonder they keep doing them. So then I had Operation Backpackers in 2016, which I had linked out for free previously. So then the next goal was, let's make a trailer for Operation Backpackers. I did that. Then I got to like my highest Patreon number in the history of anything, because now we had the Taste Closed people in addition to the Operation Backpackers people. And then there were people who were like, oh, well, if I pay this money, I get access to 2 movies instead of 1. So then it all just piled up and piled up.
That's awesome.
And so I was, again, it wasn't life-changing money by any fucking means. But it was definitely a help to sort of stimulate what COVID had taken away.
Right.
But yeah, movie trailers. That's where, and I'm probably gonna make a trailer for the game too. Trailers sell shit. I don't.
Totally.
People say, oh, they're dumb. I don't like them. The numbers don't agree with whoever says trailers are dumb.
Well, also, I didn't even know about Operation Backpackers until I saw the trailer on your Instagram. And that's available on your Patreon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I forgot. I was going to ask you actually where I could go to see that. So that's good to know. I can go to patreon.com and find that video. So you're right. It totally helps with making sure people know that it's out there at the very least. I thought I'd seen a lot of your catalog. I had no idea that movie existed.
Yeah, no, because that was another one that got blocked when I made it. I was doing that in
really?
2016. So I think the funding started in like May 1st, 2016, and then I only asked, like, I think it was only, it was tiny, whatever the hell it was. It was fucking tiny.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, no, so I made that, but the problem was it was only, or did you ever see it?
No, I meant to actually message you about where I could find it. I'm glad you brought it back up. I'm going to go on patreon.com and subscribe to go watch it. Because I'm a big fan of Mewtwo Strikes Back, and I was like, this is a perfect, and I wanted to see what the dub was like.
No, it's I'll say right now, it is not as good as Taste Closed.
Okay.
There's more action, like there's more like adventurous stuff. I don't know if anybody gives a shit about that, but I mean it's there. And that was also back Taste Closed I wrote by myself. There were a lot of jokes because I was looking over Operation Backpackers again. I was like, oh, there's a lot of jokes here that I don't think I was able to come up with on my own. But yeah, no. So the gang was back for that. So it was Moss and Morgan and Drew Ox and I think Ian too. And so, I brought, so I think that was like one of the last projects where we were all like together.
Right.
Because, people get jobs or people move or people have situations and not everybody can always be together forever to, do some stupid little fucking cartoon thing. But yeah, there's that. Let's see.
That reminded me of my last question I want to ask you. Is there ever going to be another Yugi Coin episode?
Well, actually, I mean, I've had this in the thought for a while. So I'm seeing that if YouTube's going to keep blocking the dubs, because I had a Yugi Coin Christmas special.
Is that getting worse? That the stuff that they're blocking?
It's getting worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you do a dub, like it's really harder to get it up. But so there was a Yugi Coin Christmas special that I put up December of last year on Instagram TV because that was the only place I could put it. I don't know if you saw that. But,
no, I haven't. I don't think I did.
It was like 2 minutes long. I had Tony Hawk in it. Anyway, so... Oh, shit. Sorry. Okay, but anyway, so... the thing I had with Yugi Coin, if I ever did another Yugi Coin, I'd probably do like a 5 or 6 part miniseries. Okay. And so each episode would be like 11 minutes, like a pilot. And so I would like kind of do that because I really got into like TV writing and the concept of like sustained what's the word for it, like the concept of sustained storylines.
Okay.
And like TV series, they always explore each different character and stuff like that. So I was like thinking, okay, well let's take all of Yu-Gi-Oh and just see what shit we can piece together. It'd be like one episode is centered around, like each episode is centered around the 4 characters, and then like the finale part 5 is like where it all comes together. And, like sort of, like, I guess Seinfeld-ish in a way. But yeah, because I was watching so much House MD and just stuff like that over the lockdown. And so, like, yeah, you just start thinking in terms of that. Like, because now I'm at a point where I notice writing mistakes in a lot of the shows I grew up in.
Yeah.
And that was not just any bad show, but like House MD was considered like a serious show. Like that was considered like a really good show.
I was a big fan of it back in the day.
And so it's but no, it's interesting how that stuff pans out. But it's also I don't know. The thing is that like I'm sure there were certain things where it was better, but I don't really understand the business of TV. And so I've always wanted to like talk to those long-term TV writers who are, managing a show for 5 or 6, 7 seasons and asking like, how do you manage your setup and payoff? Like, how do you manage your story arcs? Like, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
But yeah, TV is something. Now I've tried feature film now, TV or miniseries or stuff like that. That'd be interesting for me.
Right, but it also sounds like one of the other obstacles is that it's just getting harder and harder to like have a platform to show this stuff since YouTube is like, getting much more.
Patreon is perfect. Patreon is great. I have always wanted Patreon to have the function of a private video that could only be paid for, or not paid for, but like I can have a realm where people can only see it here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Patreon finally came through with that. I'd wanted it for years. 2 years ago, they finally actually started doing it.
Wait, they have a way to actually host the video now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
They do it through Vimeo. They have a partnership with Vimeo.
Oh, that's awesome. I had no idea.
And so that's how I'm able to put up Taste Clothes and all that stuff. And now and what's it called? The trailers don't get hit because there's so many clips moving so fast. There's no continuity.
Right.
So essentially, I mean, honestly, when you think about it, it's even better now that the companies block all the shit because now I can like have it on my Patreon and nobody says I'm having a paywall. I'm like, hey, dude, this is literally the only way you can watch it. Sorry, bro.
Right.
If I put it up somewhere, oh, well, you can't take it. So it's interesting. It's really funny because like, I don't know. It feels like if they just reaped the content ID off of it, they would just be making more money. But there's a pride thing with Japanese companies that I'm learning by like talking to more people who actually work on official dubs now. And there's an annoying pride thing with these Japanese companies where they don't want like, oh, we don't want any parodies. We don't want any fan dubbers on our thing. That's another thing. It's like, if they knew you did a fan dub that was really popular, they don't want you on their official English dub. There is so much shit. Like Ghost Stories is a thing that my work gets compared to a lot. Have you seen Ghost Stories?
No, I haven't. What's that?
It's one of the only official parody dubs in existence. And but it was an anime that did so poorly that the licensor didn't care what the Americans did with it, so the Americans just fucked around with it.
Oh, really?
And so yeah, so Ghost Stories is that's one I get compared to a lot. And this was like in the last 5 years maybe. And but Ghost Stories, it was such an anomaly for something like that to come out because it's just like, again, like the Japanese studios, they don't understand the value of just having fun and being fun. It's like, dude, you have a bunch of like anime titty girls running around. You're really taking pride in this? Like, bro, you're trash. Like, I don't,
Also, from my experience, whenever I watch a dub of an anime I don't know, it makes me want to check out that anime.
Yeah, no, that's another thing. I mean, I can't go on about the free advertising route and all that because we don't know how many people, how do I put it? We don't know how many people that really do that. So
true.
I don't promote that. Oh, I'm making the other anime popular because to be quite frank, I don't give a fuck about the original anime. They're all millionaires. They can fuck off. Me, I'm trying to make some money here, but it's just one of those things. Not even money, dude. It's not even that. It's just like just getting fucking seen. Like we have a bunch of giant ass companies that have controlled all the algorithms where people will only click on things they're familiar with, and now you're gonna tell me, oh well, you can't do that. By the way, if you make anything original, our algorithm won't get you discovered, by the way.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a terrible catch-22 where it's just like it's like the only way you can really be seen is by remixing something people are familiar with. But, basically the companies are saying you should just do something original. And it's like, well, no one will ever see it anyway. So what's the point?
Exactly. So, YouTube in 2007 was a much better place. But it's kind of, some people would say, some real purists would say YouTube was only good in 2006. There's always a more purist, if you get what I mean. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun to see the newest generation complaining about YouTube in another 10 years from now and how much better it was during 2021.
Yeah, well, hopefully. Tom Brady now has 7 championships, and I'm very proud of him.
Oh,
That's
yeah?
all I can say on that.
Okay. Well, dude, this was a great conversation, man. It was great catching up with you again. I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of the game. I'm definitely going to be, I'm actually going to share with a few friends of mine. I want to see what they think of it. Because I love the fact that it's not like a heavy commitment for the demo. But other than that, dude, it was great talking to you again. And thanks again for coming back on.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, stream it. Stream the game. Have your friends stream it. Yeah, streaming is drives traffic.
Yeah, I haven't been doing a lot of Twitch streams, but I definitely will probably Twitch stream it when I finally actually go through the full game.
All right. Yeah. No. That's good. It's the full game's gonna be a fucking trip. There's a lot of shit I haven't said about it that I can't because I want it to be a surprise. And
Right. I didn't want to get it. I didn't want to spoil it either. But I just if it's anything like Tay's Close, I'm sure there's a lot of avenues I haven't even expected yet.
Oh yeah. No problem. All right. But thanks for having me on.
No problem, dude. Yeah, anytime.
All right. I'll see you.